Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, five-star matchup proudly presents to you a new edition of Five-Star Radio. Hi, folks. How are you doing on this chilly, in my part of the world, Thursday evening? It is 5:04 p.m. and it is absolutely pitch dark outside. I hate this time of the year, usually because it's cold, but in the last 5 years, because it usually coincides with the Pittsburgh Steelers absolutely collapsing. Hey, you guys were here a couple days ago, heard me engage, do our show on Tuesday. I was probably not in the most uplifting of spirits. Today, I'm going to try to do better for you because I am here, as usual, with my typical running mate on Thursdays, the legendary Mr. Steel Flyers. How you doing, bud?
Well, man, I'll tell you what. How could you go wrong with an introduction like that, man? Holy smokes! I'm not as legendary as y'all think I am, but man, it all day long. But actually, what's really legendary is the gang here, five-star matchup, producing the shows and the content for you guys to go and see. And all you have to do is go on over to patreon.com/5SMU and get yourself signed up for a piddly, and I'm saying it, folks, piddly $4 a month or $7 a month. It's $48 a year. Come on now. That helps to get all this stuff rolling. So big thanks to the five-star crew and everybody there, what you guys are doing, man, and everything, how this whole thing is just taken off this year. It's like this fifth year has been the five-star.
Yeah, the fifth year has been a lot of fun, until very recently. It's been
Yeah.
a blast. I'm realizing
Well, yeah,
now,
well, yeah.
I forgot to change the template on the screen so it still says Steelers versus Cardinals. I do not want to encourage you to remember the Steelers versus Cardinals game. I will change that in just a moment as we're talking here. I did make the template. I just didn't place it because just like the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm not really on my P's and Q's right now. I guess if they're going to get paid millions of dollars to let the details slide, I can go ahead and get paid $4 or $7 a month and also let a few of the details slide from time to time. So yeah, Mr. Steel
Actually,
Flyers,
not really. Actually, not really. But
you
I
know.
mean, it's holiday
But
season.
see,
It.
here's the thing though. Unlike Mike Tomlin's Pittsburgh Steelers, watch this. I just went into Photoshop while I was talking. I didn't stop talking for a second, and I did this, and I saved a PNG of the new template, and I just said it while I was talking. I didn't even pause for a second. Okay, so I made a halftime adjustment, and I came out on top because of it.
No, see, you didn't even make it. This was way. Look, we're not, dude. We're still doing the commercials, right? Okay. we we did a kickoff commercial adjustment on the fly. Look at that, and he's
This
not even getting
is
paid millions of dollars.
this is just, this is the kind of stuff that I do on five-star matchup. This is the attention to detail. This is what you get out of us. So yeah, obviously I did a show on Tuesday with Gage. I did a radio show, and that night I also dropped a somewhat controversial video of me talking directly to the camera and urging the end of the Mike Tomlin era. That's a topic that I've avoided very directly talking about in a lot of ways because I find that, like, usually coaching conversations like that, it's hard to really
Yeah.
have a productive conversation because you get the people that are either never going to change their mind, or you get the people that are like, well, who would you hire? And I'm like, I don't know, it's not my job. Like, I didn't know, I wasn't thinking about the Steelers signing Isaac Seumalu last year. Like, that's not my job to go out and evaluate left guards that are available. Like, and I feel the same way about coaches. I mean, who knew Mike Tomlin before he got hired? Who knew Bill Cowher before he got hired? Who knew Chuck Noll before he got hired? Um, that's not my job. But yeah, I felt like I said in the video, I sat down to write any number of times, and I just couldn't come up with a highlight show because frankly, I just was really just kind of bottoming out with my enjoyment of the Pittsburgh Steelers in that Thursday night game. It hit me all at once that it was just
Yeah.
another of like what we've been seeing now for so much. It's they will be a good team for like half of a year, sometimes 2/3 of a
Whatever.
year.
3/4. Oh yeah, 2/3. Oh yeah, like 2/3. Good.
Yeah, and you'll feel good about them for a period of the time. Last year it was the second half of the season. This year it was the first half of the season. But then you find yourself like there's always a moment lately where I'm like, man, this is just worse than anything I ever saw. And these games the last few years, getting destroyed by like the Bengals and getting blown out by that Vikings game where Ben let him back, but still they were getting 10
So
yards a carry. And
yeah.
just these games lately where you just like, man, like I just that Bills game last year, the Eagles game last year, where you're like, man, I don't know. For the first 20 years of me watching the Steelers every day, I didn't see that stuff more than one or two times the whole time. And now it's like once every 4 weeks.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing the show the way you did, because I think what you did was basically capture the entirety of Steeler Nation. Because look, at some point you gotta come to the realization, no matter how much you shine it, it's still a turd.
Yeah.
Okay. I am not going to sit here and be that guy that says that Mike Tomlin is not a Hall coach, because I think he is, because he has similar numbers to Bill Cowher. If you put Bill Cowher in there with the same numbers, then you have to consider
Yeah.
in Mike Tomlin, because he also has a Super Bowl as a coach for another team. So that, and he's got a couple more wins than Bill does or anything else like that. My whole thing was this: I never expected him to even have this kind of a career, because really, I didn't really want him hired. I was kind of thinking of more along the lines of Russ Grimm, or even Bruce Arians at the time would have. Those were kind of the guys that I was leaning more towards as far as coaching, when this whole job came available.
Sure.
So all right, we got Mike Tomlin, cool. Here's the one thing that always kind of stuck with me about Mike Tomlin: he never had like a clipboard or a sheet that had stuff written down on it, or even a pen in his hand. He never had anything dangling around his neck. He just had kind of the phones on in his hands and his freaking.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not denying the fact that Mike Tomlin is a Hall of Fame coach based off of the record that he has. Okay, and I'm only that based off of the others that have gone with that similar, with those similar types of numbers. I, I'm. It's hard when you see a player like we. It was tough watching Ben go through 2, 3 years of his career. It was tough,
Yeah.
because we all knew that although the mind was willing, the flesh was weak.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Right. And so he tried and tried and tried, and they kept giving him every opportunity. And they kind of eke out some some success because let's face it, he Hall of Fame quarterback. I don't
Yeah, just
okay.
absolute will and guile. I mean, that was
Right.
the whole last 2
He had
years there
nothing
after.
left.
Yeah, the whole
Right.
last 2 years there after the elbow surgery, and especially after the knee injury in 2020 when he got hurt against the Cowboys. He just his
Yeah.
lower body was never right again after that, and he even said it. I mean, he said on his podcast recently that his arm feels fine, but it's his knees and his legs that have failed him. He just can't. He has no lower, but no base. But yes, it was tough to watch.
Hear the sirens.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
famous
The
five
five
star
stars.
sirens.
5 stars. Sirens are back. But yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's kind of how I feel about what's going on here with Mike Tomlin. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's been tough to watch the last couple of years because he hasn't successful, and I think it's just because it's an old up message.
yeah.
I,
I mean,
I'm
I don't even I think though that the thing is that I don't think that the problem is that I don't see. I don't buy that the message is the problem, because I think that messages in
I'm
general.
trying to be nice by saying
No,
that.
no, but I'm saying is like I understand where that comes from, but I think that the concept of the message, um, to me, I think that a lot of that is kind of conjecture, because I think, it's just all about a tone you set. And guys, I don't think lose that. Andy Reid didn't lose that when he was in Philadelphia for a long time. And, I think, sometimes you could need it to be reset a little bit. But I think at the end of the day, if you are coordinating, because I think we have to think of modern NFL head coaches as like CEOs. And I think if you are coordinating a product that is going to be a successful and winning product, then the results are going to speak for themselves and your players will buy into what you're doing. So I think it works with each other. I think any kind of message can work, because if you get people on board and you build your team the right way, you're going to win, and then you're going to buy in, and then you're going to be successful. So I don't think that that's the problem with Tomlin. For me, the problem with Tomlin, um, is just that he's a dinosaur. That's what I really believe. I just think this is becoming more and more of a young person's, I should say, game than ever before, where you look at these kids, I don't even say kids, but like, I mean, Sean McVay is barely older than me. Um Mike McDaniel, I mean,
They're
these.
old. They were as old as Mike Tomlin was when he first got hired. See,
Yeah. No, I mean, these are guys that,
okay,
like, I look at Sean McVay and I'm like, "Oh, that's like the dudes who were in college when I was a sophomore in high school." Like, I literally, that's who they are to me, relatively speaking. And like, I look at somebody like Mike Tomlin and I try to think about, okay, like, how is Mike Tomlin relating to like a guy like George Pickens, who's 21 years old and frankly has achieved more success in his professional career, i.e., like as a Georgia Bulldog, than like Mike Tomlin has in the last 10 years in the NFL. Right? Like, you do at some point kind of have to say, like, well, what?
man, I say that, but I'm agreeing to
No, I mean,
it.
think about it. George Pickens or somebody like that, these young folks, right? They don't remember Super Bowl 43. You know what I mean? Like, what was George?
I'm
If you're
not
tw- if
old.
you're
They're not even
21
born
years,
then.
yeah, if you're 21 years old right now, what were you, 7, 8 years old when Mike Tomlin last won a Super Bowl? I mean,
There you go. I mean, and how old I was when I first started watching the Steelers. Like I was,
yeah,
when I first started watching this. Do you know what I mean? So, and it's kind of funny that you mentioned that it's a young man game because when Mike was hired, he was considered one of the youngest coaches
yeah, no, he was, yeah,
hired at the time. Okay, and what I mean by the match is exactly what you just said. And I believe you were the one that even tweeted it out, or you had a little short video or something about it that said about how the fact that Mike Tomlin is not able to relate to these guys anymore. Okay. And you need to be able to have coach that can do that to some degree. Okay. So, and it just seems like he's been able to get past that part
Yeah.
of, hey, he's got a lot of veterans. Like when he first started, he had Palomalu, he had,
Yeah.
you know, all those guys on the team, and Porter and all that stuff. Man, he had leaders already built in.
Yeah.
All he had to do basically back and let him run.
Yeah, Heinz Ward and guys like that. Yeah, I do think like that is, that is a decidedly that is a problem. I think I don't know if it was Caboli or somebody I read in the Athletic today that was talking about how young the Steelers have been now for a while. They really have, they're very devoid of guys who have won anything. As I said in the video, um,
Yeah.
the only guys, I mean, you really like you think of this team as being successful, and then you look at the roster, and the only guys who have won a playoff game with the Steelers are the kicker and Chris Boswell and Cam Hayward. Two guys on the whole roster that have ever won a playoff game in the black and gold. So I'm saying like, okay, well, who's here carrying the banner? And that's not to, but I guess my point is I got a little off track there. My point wasn't really to say about the cultural element of Mike Tomlin as a head coach. I just believe that his mindset and the way in which he's shaping decision making and stuff like that, I just think is behind the times. I think we've seen him now get outclassed enough times by these different Shanahan tree head coaches, like whether it's Shanahan himself or you know, he's actually, I'll give Tomlin credit. He's actually done a good job against Sean McVay the two times they've played. He's actually really outplayed Sean McVay both games. But like, a lot of those guys, the Mike McDaniels and you know, I just you or D'Amico Ryans with the Texans this year. I mean, just absolutely schooled him. And I think that there's something to be said about that. Like you have to be able to adapt to the times, and I just think some of his decision making processes are just not the strongest. When to go for fourth, when to punt it, when to do this, when to do that, um and just the way that he's
Clock
groomed.
management.
Yeah, and the way that the timeouts. Don't get me started on the timeouts in the Patriots game. That was absolutely absurd. You take a timeout on 4th and inches to say that you're gonna run a sneak. If anything, just get to the line of scrimmage. That's what I don't get. Is like you hired Trubisky, and all he ever says about Trubisky is, "Oh well, he's a guy who has experience as a franchise type guy in this league." Okay,
Well, I
well
don't
then
see it.
how come
I don't see it.
he can't say on 4th and inches, we're just gonna get up on the ball and we're gonna snap it because I'm an athletic quarterback and I can fall forward for half a yard? Like, quarterbacks, to me, that was so no, but it was so exemplary of the problems is that the quarterbacks, and we know this from when Roethlisberger was here with Canada, that there are no audibles. There's no autonomy whatsoever in this offense for the quarterbacks. And what it's led to is a bunch of quarterbacks that are just playing with no confidence, with their only goal being to not turn it over. And that's just not good enough. Like, you're not gonna make anything happen when you do that. And I think it's leading to just a really ugly offense. Because as everybody knows, the biggest problem is the quarterback position. Like, on paper, there's no doubt about it. It's the biggest problem. But I also think it's like really hard to evaluate what the quarterbacks are doing if they're being trained the wrong way and they're being told the wrong things to do. Pickett in particular. I mean, Trubisky. I don't have any faith in Trubisky as a player in this league, but I can't deny the fact that he had 2 years as a Bears quarterback where he was a passable starting quarterback, and he plays on every time he plays on the Steelers, their offense looks like the most unbelievably sloggy mess I've ever seen. These two games he played against the Patriots, this one and the one
That's a
last
good
year,
way to put it.
and week two,
Sloggy.
where they're games that are just sitting there waiting for you to take them, and they just refuse. They just absolutely refuse to do it. In this Patriots game, the Patriots handed them this game right back on a silver platter, and they just couldn't do it. And
Nope.
I just think that that's a real shame, because I just think that what's the point of having a veteran guy if he's not going to play well off the bench? And I also think, like, you know, I don't know, man. I'm just getting worried about the cumulative effects of now 2 years of teaching Pickett to play like this.
Be word. Be. And the reason why I'm saying that is because this going get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
There's, and I hate to say that, but I just when when the card does fall, boot does fall, when the hammer does drop, it's gonna be ugly.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're gonna see it. We've seen it already.
Yeah.
Where, and this is kind of one of those where it's so to see why it's so hard to watch, because you've covered this team and followed this team and have been a fan of this team for as long as we have. You look at this time and you're looking towards playoff division titles and things like that used to happen, and they just haven't in over 10 years. And I'm sorry, but I don't care what anybody says. If you don't make playoffs, that's a losing season in my book. Okay. So, and then
Yeah.
when you do make the playoffs, you can't win a game in the playoffs. So don't give me this, oh, he's never had a losing season garbage. If you didn't make the playoffs, that's a losing season as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
Okay? Not when
yeah.
you come from what the Steelers have come from,
Well,
where
yeah.
that was expected to just continue to carry along.
Well, yeah, and then I think my question is, like, okay, well, how and when are we supposed to expect that this team is going to start to feel like it's better? Because I think now that I mean, this has been, I'm trying to think, out of the 5 seasons that I've done 5-star matchup, I would say that there is only, including this season, because unless they go on a crazy run and win a playoff
Win
game,
out.
yeah, I think that this is going to hold true. So I would say that out of the 5 seasons I've done this, going back 19, 20, 21, 22, and now 23, um, I would say that the arrow would have to either be flat or down on 4 out of 5 of those years at the end of the season. And that's a trend. That's a trend, because I would say that, okay, 19, it's flat because the defense got better, but you didn't know what Ben was going to be when he came back. You had no idea, and if you
Right.
say you knew, you didn't, because
Right.
none of us knew. You thought it could be good, but
Right.
no one was like, "Oh, well, Mason Rudolph's the heir apparent, so even if like no one was saying that. It was all just, hopefully Ben can come back and be good." So that's flat
Because
at,
otherwise we're screwed.
yeah, that's flat at best. 2020, and actually you could even extend this further back, because you can go back to 2017 and say it
I
was
was going to
down.
say,
It was down at 17 where they collapsed with Shazier. 18, they completely collapsed with Antonio Brown and stuff. That whole Killer B team,
Le'Veon Bell and all. Yep.
that team, people forget, was 6-2 and ended up not even making the playoffs. So what's the excuse there? And then 19, so you're feeling flat. 20, I mean, I think you'd have to say that you felt down actually after that year. I think because they again collapsed. They went 11-0 and they ended up only winning 12 games and got blasted in the playoffs. So that's not good. And then in 2021,
No.
and then 2021, it was kind of, we got the nice feel good moments with Roethlisberger at the end, but in totality, 2021 was kind of a pointless season, really, other than the feel good nature of, like, those last 2 games against the Browns and the Ravens. Like, really, we spent most of that year win 1, lose 1, win 2, lose 1. Like, it was not. So you would say that you're probably feeling down after that year. And then 2022, I'll give them credit. The way they finished last year, you say, yeah, the arrow's pointed up. And now we had one offseason like that, and we're going to go into the next offseason saying again, I think that arrow is at best
Down.
flat and possibly pointing down.
Yeah. Yeah, because we had hopes coming into this season. We had based of what all from, the previous season, Kenny Pickett coming on, they were winning, in late December.
Yeah.
So we had hot, and then we saw the preseason, and we were all like, oh, oh.
I know.
We were so enamored with the preseason, and
I know.
it hid the monsters, man.
But dude, it's even more than that though, because even if you, because I know what people are gonna think in their mind, and they're gonna say, well, we were overrating the preseason, and you know what, we probably were, but after playing the Green Bay Packers, the Pittsburgh Steelers were 6-3. They were 6-3, and they had games coming up against their two division rivals, the Browns and the Bengals, both with backup quarterbacks, and they absolutely fumbled the bag against the Cleveland Browns and whoever the hell was playing quarterback for them. I can't even remember at that point. PJ Tucker, or it was Dorian Thompson Robinson, right? The kid.
It was Dorian Thompson, right?
Yeah.
A DT.
Yeah, so it was the kid. But again, okay, remember when the Steelers used to win 99 out of 100 games against rookie quarterbacks? Not so much anymore. So
right.
they fumbled the bag with that game. Another game they had every opportunity to win and could not put together any amount of points to win it. And then they squeaked by against the Cincinnati Bengals after firing Matt Canada, where they got 430 yards of offense, but only 16 points. Okay. Another great job by Mike Tomlin. Good job challenging the Deontay Johnson touchdown. That was clear and obvious. But knowing the referees in the NFL, they probably would have ruled it incomplete anyway, so I guess I can't really blame them. And then, after that, they have, big deal.
The following week, the following week they came back, and the whole difference was the launching and the timing. Yeah. Of when that play happened, when Mike Tomlin had the opportunity to challenge, it wasn't at the end of the half, so it wasn't automatically looked at. The one with the other game the following week, that was automatically looked at because it was in the last 2 minutes of the half.
Exactly. And so yeah, so he doesn't take a look at that. They blow that game. Well, they win that game, but they, yeah.
More evidence of lack of game management, clock management,
well, it's not a good look.
Situational ball.
It's not a good look. And the thing is, I haven't even gotten to the worst part of that yet, which is then in the span of 4 days, the Steelers have a chance to end up going 9-4 with 2 wins against two 2-win teams at home, the Arizona Cardinals and the New England Patriots. And they proceed to drop them both and really not even put much of a fight up against the Cardinals. That game is going to end up being one of the most forgettable Pittsburgh Steelers games of my lifetime. That was just a miserable slog and just really just brutal. And the Patriots game, they ended up putting a little bit of fight. The Patriots tried to give it to them, but obviously they couldn't get it done. But the point is there's just no mystique about the Steelers anymore. There's no mystique about Heinz Field. There's no mystique. I'm sick and tired of seeing kids on Twitter talking about, oh, well, the Jaguars disrespected the terrible towel, and now Trevor Lawrence got hurt. Listen, okay, we are grasping at straws now, like I said in the Tomlin video, where I'm like, man, this is the stuff I used to make fun of Browns fans for. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of acting like it matters. It doesn't matter. You know why? Because I would trade places with Jaguars fans right now and have Trevor Lawrence on my team 100 times out of 100. Sorry, Steelers fans. I know you don't want to hear that, but I'm sick and tired of watching a team score 9 points every week, okay? I've been watching these games three times every game because I have to watch it, I have to edit it, I have to talk about it, I have to blah, 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 blah. And quite frankly, I am sick and tired of putting lipstick on a pig. All right. The pig does not want lipstick. It does not look good on him. It's not convincing anybody that the pig is any prettier. But I am trying my best. And this is what our Pittsburgh Steelers are giving me. And I just don't have the energy for it anymore. I am desperate for new problems. And more importantly, I'm desperate for new solutions. I'm done talking about Deontay Johnson celebrating. I'm done talking about George Pickens on Instagram. I just don't care
None of
anymore,
it
man.
matters.
No, I'm
But none
tired
of
of
it
it.
matters.
No,
None
it
of it
doesn't.
matters,
Doesn't.
And but see, here's the thing, though, and this is what makes this is what makes it kind of difficult to go through. Is that, like I said, going to get worse before it gets, because when the bottom does drop out, and it's gonna, right, whether they trade Tomlin or ever, I think a whole lot of hooey if we trade the coach. The last time that happened, that was Chucky to Tampa Bay, right? And I think the Raiders ended up paying like a boatload of money.
Yeah, I don't see
But
that
there was
happening.
money involved.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to talk about. Don't give me this hooey trading him to the Commanders and all. I get it. I understand. It would be it's a fun thing to think about, but just don't trade coaches like that, and especially a guy like Mike Tomlin, who it doesn't matter if you fire him. I guarantee you there are 6 or 7
Yeah.
easy teams that'll be calling him up, going, "Hey, Mike, so I see your unemployment line."
Well,
I
I mean,
mean,
it's the same thing I've been saying though. Is like I don't even get why that argument matters when people are like, "Oh, he'd have a job. He'd have another job in a heartbeat." Like, okay, good. Like,
who cares?
I don't dislike
Right.
Mike Tomlin, and I honestly think that it's just something that would be better for him too. I just think it's like you can get complacent in a job. And I just think that sometimes, I don't think he's complacent, but I just think sometimes you can't really see what needs to change when you see it every day in front of your eyes. Do you know what I mean? Like you just, you don't realize the things that are sliding and the things that are changing. And I don't know. I just like I'm getting bored of like, to be honest, like even guys I love like Cam Hayward and stuff. I'm just getting tired of how like every week it's like, oh well, somebody's gonna ask Cam Hayward on like NFL Network, like, what'd you think about Ben saying that the Steelers way is dying or whatever? And I'm just tired of it. And then I hear him say stuff like I hear him say stuff like, "Oh, well that's not true," and like we're still working, and like everybody works hard in practice. But then also you see like, "Oh, well Cam Hayward didn't take a veteran day off from practice this week cuz he wanted to set an example." So it's like, "Well, which is it, Cam? Is it that we're not losing the way, or is it that you needed to set an example, like maybe the leaders weren't setting a good enough example, or what is it? Like what is the problem?" And I just think it's just it doesn't reflect good on anybody, and it's just a real bummer because I don't see at the start of this season I saw a very real path to this team becoming successful in a real way within the next
Yeah, yeah, I
two
think we all
years.
did.
And now I really got to question that. I really do, because if we if you go 6-3 and you end up winning 9 games, that sucks. That sucks. That's not good. You go, especially in the 17.
Especially, I would say, especially in a 17-game season.
I mean, it literally, if they go 9
Jeez,
and 8,
man.
if they go 9 and 8 after being 6-3, that would be what, a 3-5 finish. That's not good. That's not good.
The exact opposite.
I
That's the
mean,
exact opposite of how you started.
yeah, and to go, I mean, shoot, that's why I said at that point when they were 6-3, remember I changed my tune to saying, okay, well, at this point, I no longer think 10 is exceeding expectations. At that point, I said I think 11 is exceeding expectations. Because at that point, if you're 6-3, to go 10-7, you just got to go 500 down the rest of the way. You got to go 4-4.
Can we manage to? So this is what's going to end up happening, right? So we'll maybe one or two of the next 3 games, maybe. I mean, I'm being optimistic here, okay?
I have absolutely zero confidence
And
they're going to beat the Colts this week. Gardner Minshew in that offense is a light years better than what the Steelers do on offense, especially with Trubisky.
I think I tweeted out today, man. Yeah, I wouldn't bet against Mustache Mania coming from Pittsburgh this week either. But saying that, so there's two different scenarios. One, they potentially squeak into the playoffs as the whatever wild card, and then get utterly by whomever the number one seed is. Don't even really care who it is, and beat Baltimore for that matter. Don't even care because it's not even going to be worth it because now at this point you're just built into the wound, you know. Or if they lose all the rest of these games, now you get Mike Tomlin's first losing quote unquote. That's gonna
Yeah.
swim over into Steeler Nation. Do you know what I mean? Like you're actually gonna have a losing season.
Yeah. I mean,
I mean,
they would have to go, let's see. So they're 7-6. So they would have to they could only
if they
win
lose the rest of the games,
yeah, they could only win one more game and be under 500. So
right?
so if they win at least
But
two more, yeah.
still, okay. Even then, even that's not going to be enough to make it to the playoffs.
No,
I
I
don't
mean,
think.
I think you could with 9, but I think that if you I think that I think that if you go 6-3 and you end up winning 9 games, that to me is just not good. That's not a strong finish, and that doesn't indicate a team that's going to be strong. Um,
In the
and
playoffs.
yeah, no, and they they're not gonna win anything in the playoffs if they get there. So, yeah, I don't know. These two games really changed the whole tenor of the season. I've never seen anything quite like this before, where that loss to the Browns was bad. And I knew it was bad at the time. I think I'm on record as saying it was a really, really terrible loss and what I thought was a huge
We
moment.
both are.
Yeah, I thought that was just a
We both are.
I thought that was a big game, and that's really when I started to that's when I really started to get seriously worried about the Kenny Pickett situation, where I was just like, man, I can't see the way anybody in this building didn't know that this is like a moment. That was a game where you go out and you win that game, and you're really saying like, okay, we're making a run at the division. Like that was a game where it's like you could have really set a lot in motion. And now all that's happened since then is the Browns went and signed Joe Flacco off the trash heap, and he's come out and overproduced anything we've trotted out at quarterback in the last 3 years, and they're ahead of us in the division. And then
Period.
how many quarterbacks had? I don't want to hear the injuries. I don't want to hear the injury. I don't want to hear, oh well, Kenny Pickett got hurt, because Kenny Pickett wasn't lighting it up when he was playing. Okay, how many quarterbacks has the Cleveland Browns played this year? I'll tell you, 4. They've played 4 quarterbacks. Deshaun Watson, their starter, wasn't even good when he played. And they're ahead of us. They're ahead of us. All right? Like I'm tired of this. What is the excuse? What is the oh well,
Even had.
just tell me what the problem is,
I'm sorry.
because their
Yeah.
defense,
Yeah.
they've been building the same way as the Steelers, and
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
defense is number
Yeah.
1 in the league in almost every statistic, and every Steeler fan just keeps telling me that Myles Garrett ain't shit compared to TJ Watt, but all I see is a defense that's doing better than the Steelers and a defense that's winning games for an offense that has no quarterback, but is somehow still outproducing the Pittsburgh Steelers when they have their starting quarterback. So the problems are endemic. And I'm
I
just
mean, even the
really,
Browns have lost their starting running.
yeah.
They
They're
lost their starting running back. You know what I mean? So it's not like you can't say injuries. See, that's I don't buy game. I don't buy into that realm because you spend $10 million a year with a quarterback for him to come in there and stink up the joint. Do you understand what I'm saying? You don't pay that extra couple dollars for that backup running back or that secondary running back that can come in there and can just carry the rock for you. You know what I'm saying, right? You, you build a team so you can handle injuries and a lot of guys. I mean, look, I, I am going to say that the Steelers defense lost quite a lot of players this year to injury. Their defense suffered a lot on the injury front,
Sure.
but I think it had a lot to see. It's what I talked on a couple of shows ago, where everything that you do in football builds to a crescendo, which is at the end of the season. Now, no matter what step, which path you've taken throughout the whole season, it's going to down to where you get to the end of the season. Now, how successful were you is depend on how many wins and losses you have. Do you know what I'm saying? So you want to try to do those things in a collective to try to get yourself, but there's been too many missteps and too many mistakes made to where that collective has been broken, and you're never going to be able to fix that. So that's kind of what I mean by this. It's going to get worse before better, because you don't have guys on you don't have coaches on the same page, you don't have players on the same page, you don't have a cohesive team.
No.
You have a bunch of individuals looking at themselves kind of right now, it seems like. And you don't have a coach that's willing to lay the smack down and angle these guys together and pull them in and go, hey guys, we're
Yeah.
trying to win something here.
Yeah, but I think see though again that goes back to me like the football of it all. So what I mean by that is I'm like responding to what you're saying there, and I also see somebody in the chat. Where was it? The real problem is societal. Today's NFL is a selfish bunch. Players like Minka, TJ, and Cam are the exception, not the rule. Okay, here's the thing. All right. Look at a team like the San Francisco 49ers. How many superstars do they have? Do I need to rattle them off? Do I need to name their seventh round quarterback, Brock Purdy, who I believe is either the favorite or second favorite to win the MVP this year? Uh,
Mr. Irrelevant, last guy drafted, but
yes. And, little running back they went out and acquired last year. You might have heard of him. He's pretty good. He only scores about 6 touchdowns every week. Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel, George Kittle, Trent Williams, Fred Warner. The list goes on and on and on and on. And
that's
my
sad that know this much about other teams because
yes,
they're that good.
yes, but this is my point though. Is like those guys buy in. Like what? So they found 20 superstars that'll buy in, but now like society and 22-year-old kids like they won't buy in. Like I don't buy that. I don't agree with that, because it's your job to evaluate these young folks. It's your job to mold them into the adults. And as I always talk about, the thing that inspires me the most about Chuck Noll is that he really believed in investing in the human beings and all that. And I have
And
said
he was
on
a teacher.
yeah, and I've said on air that I actually think that the Steelers in recent years have done a better job of bringing in the right kinds of people. I still think Kenny Pickett is the right kind of person, even if I don't think he's a very good quarterback. Same as Terrell
Bringing in the right
Edmonds.
kind of, yeah,
Yeah, guys where you're like, okay, that's
it's
still the
different in town.
yeah, and so there's a focus there, but I don't believe that like oh, it's this cultural thing of like guys can't because guys produce everywhere that are you like I said, it's all tied to your success. George Pickens is getting annoyed because he's got like one game with more than 2 catches in the last 2 months. He's annoyed because his quarterback and his offensive system suck. And he's not used to that. He's used to being a star player, okay? I'm sick of hearing, like, oh, well, this isn't Georgia. You're not going to catch a touchdown every week. Well, why not? Why not? Wouldn't it be better?
Why
Wouldn't
were
it be
you
good?
drafted then?
Wouldn't it be good?
Why were
Wouldn't
you
we be
drafted
better?
then?
Wouldn't
Yeah,
we be in a better
yeah.
place if George Pickens had 11 touchdowns this season?
Go figure.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I
Go
mean, like,
figure.
it's not, and we're talking, the thing is, when you get in these arguments with folks, it's like, we're not talking about the difference between, a good year and a bad year. I mean, offensively, like, seriously, we are talking about a team that is terrible. This team offensively sucks. It just does. The passing game is bad. And I get why the receivers are frustrated and why there's so many of these moments of, like, this thing, and, like, we saw it happen, like, in years past with Chase Claypool and stuff. And, like, now it's like, well, why would you want to be a wide receiver coming to work every day in this offense? What are you getting out of it? You're not going to get a chance to get paid? George Pickens ain't putting up. I mean, Deontay Johnson already did get paid by this stupid team that thinks he's worth the money, which he's not. But George Pickens ain't going to get a deal off of this production. He's going to go somewhere and he's going to get the Juju treatment that Juju got, where somebody will give him a 1-year deal. He'll have to produce, and then maybe he'll get another deal after that if his knees aren't shot. Ugh.
That's a shame. That's a shame. If why would you draft a player then if you didn't expect him to catch 11 touchdown passes? Yeah, doesn't make any sense. Then why would you want to draft a player like that so that you can't have him be that production? Oh, you drafted him because of his production, right? If you're evaluating talent, you're evaluating guys based off of their production, right? So you think he's 11 touchdown catches. Well, that maybe we can at least get him, 5 or 6 here in the pros. His first year, maybe, you know what I mean? And the other thing, too, is the not starting. Look, there's so many things that need to change in this team that you can't just say, oh, it's just this player in this position, or oh, it's this player in that position. There's so much here that needs fixed. Okay, and I'm not trying to downplay the quality of Mike Tomlin's coaching career. I'm not trying to say that he's not, as far as the numbers are concerned, worthy of at least the Hall of Fame. I'm not saying that. I just his wait, his 5-year wait to get into the Hall of Fame. I just wanted that to start a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it would be really nice if it could start after this season,
Yeah.
because this everybody is saying that, oh, they were in the middle of a rebuild and everything else like that, and the rebuild was happening for 6 years, and all this other kind of craziness, right? And it's like, well, okay, so got some talented players on this team. How could you not be successful with the talent that you have on this team that you drafted?
Yeah.
It boggles my mind that you get these types of caliber players, George Pickens, right? And Najee Harris and Paramuth, and then you just
Well,
Benton, right? Keanu
yeah.
Benton, or our guy number 7. Gosh, his name's
What's
lineman Jones, Audric
Yeah,
Jones.
Broderick Jones. Yeah. Well,
Why
that's
would you draft? Let me finish real quick.
yeah.
Why would you bother drafting these kids if you don't want them to be in the lineup in a significant role? If why are you just eyedroppering it in, right? Look, what do you got to go home?
Yeah. Well, I'm with you. That's what I was saying last year about Kenny Pickett coming out of camp, where I felt it was just pointless to not start him right away. And what were we
It was so
do?
stupid. stupid.
What are we doing with this Trubisky experiment? And I think that, I feel, as far as the offense goes this year, I think that it's really hard to delineate the blame because I think it became obvious that Matt Canada was just woefully inept. But I also then have to say, okay, well, how come the people who are making a lot of money to make these decisions, like, I know that the Steelers are very bare bones and old school as far as modern football organizations go, but Art the second didn't have one analytics person in his ear over the offseason being like, hey, we were in second and long way more often than almost every other team in the league. And by the way, we're not scoring a lot of touchdowns. And, I mean, like, that's why I hate this idea of like fans judging other fans for like, well, you didn't say they needed to fire candidate. Like, it's not my job. It's not my job. My job is to react to what they put on tape. That's my job. That's what I'm getting paid for. That's why you subscribe to me at patreon.com/5SMU. That is what I get paid for. I make jokes.
That's why we do this.
Yes, I,
That's
I,
why we do
yeah,
this.
I make jokes. I laugh about this, but the idea that any one of us is like, oh well, you were on this side or you on that side is so stupid and so pointless. It's the Steelers' job to put a best product out on the field. Mike Tomlin said himself he wants us to be fat and spoiled fans, and I am scrawny and starving, quite frankly, because I haven't seen this team do anything worth their weight since I think the last time I saw the Steelers do something cool in person, genuinely, was Christmas Day 2016 when I went to that game against the Ravens, and that is 7 years ago now in a week. So,
That's lip quivering that game. Oh,
yeah, I haven't even had so much as a meal since then, okay? I'm starving, Mike. I am
oh
dying.
man,
I am dying for
I
football
know.
that matters again.
Rotting,
I am
rotting on the
desperate.
vine.
I am desperate for that feeling again of like, oh, we're going to get Steelers tickets. It's going to be a tough game, but they're going to, that Ben's going to pull some stuff out and it's going to work and I just like I said on the show with Gage the other day, like I have no desire, where I live, like it's far. It's far for me to travel. I either gotta fly and rent a car or I gotta drive 6.5 hours. It's a long day. It's a long travel weekend. And I have no desire to do that just to risk a 45% chance they're going to get blown out by the Arizona freaking Cardinals. Like I just can't do it. I'm desperate for them to change my feelings about it.
I mean, I'm at the point now where I'm with you because I go to a game at least once a year because it's a little closer for me,
I used to.
and
I did. I used to go to 2 or 3 a
right,
year sometimes when they were good. But now, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna spend $500 to go see them get blown out by 60 points. Come on.
exactly. You know what I mean? And it's actually the first year we a game where we won,
Yes.
right? So all that I've been to now, we've all it makes it tough. Do you only want to keep going to go see a team even though they lose the games that you go to, but they win the majority of the other ones. But this game era, they actually won the game. Was like, all right, I was feeling good, and you're like, yeah, okay, cool, we're in the right direction, and and I mean there was so much high hopes for this team, and I think that. And I'm going to stick to this the whole way through until we see this happen, until we see the dominoes. I think you're going to see some major changes happening here in the Steelers this off season. I really think that this. I really think this season is going to kind of be the straw that broke the camel's back. Okay, because number one, they fired the OC midway through. That's time the Steelers fired a midway through anything back to war.
Yeah,
I'm talking
it was midway
a
through
Gulf War.
It was midway through World War II.
You're
Yeah.
right. Right. That's what I'm talking about. Not the war, Korean War. We're going
Yeah.
further back. Okay, so that's a freaking long time ago.
Yeah.
All right. That's saying something. Okay. maybe flags blowing up all over the place. There is serious talent on this team. Is serious potential on this team. They've got a good crop of young players coming up that could seriously do some damage to this league. Okay? Talking about the George Pickens, talking about, those kinds of players coming in and doing stuff. Alex Highsmith, another one. TJ Watt is Minka Fitzpatrick. These are just exceptional talents. Okay, these are superstar type people here.
Yeah.
Okay, that are franchise stalwarts. Okay, these guys are all really young still. Okay, take advantage of this opportunity while you got it because there's talent on this team. If you had some scheming, you had some coaching, had some structure and some direction, then I think that this team could be, I would take 30% more successful, right? Because that's 3 more games, that's 3 more
Yeah.
wins,
Yeah.
that's playoffs.
No, you need to, I mean, and I think more importantly, I think you owe it to yourselves and I think you owe it to the player to find out next year if Kenny Pickett's the guy. And I can't believe that it's going to be now stretching into a third year of us asking that question. Um, but that's the reality of
Short
the
leash,
situation. That's the reality. I mean,
short leash.
you're gonna, I mean, it doesn't matter, you're gonna go into next year with him as the starter and that's that. I mean, there's no other way around that. Like, it is the case, they're not gonna draft a quarterback and they're gonna give him a new OC, and maybe they'll, who knows what's gonna happen otherwise in the organization, but clearly they have not done a good job installing a system that fits him. And I think they put the cart before the horse a little bit with Matt Canada, where they were like, they seemed to think that this guy was like a hot commodity and they had to have him on the staff, and then they had to hire, like, I don't know where that came from, because again, he came in and, as I've discussed with Gage a number of times, like, he didn't do any of the stuff that he was known for doing previously in his career. So then I'm asking myself, okay, well, was that like because Tomlin said you got to make it more pro and he just didn't know how to do it? Or, I don't understand what the point of that was. And clearly, Pickett didn't like working with Canada. Um, I think that's obvious, because I think if Kenny Pickett said no, I really like working with Matt Canada, I think Matt Canada would still have a job right now. I'm being a
I
hundred percent
agree
honest.
100%.
Yeah,
I agree with you 100% on that.
and so then I'm asking, well, why did it go another year, and why did we stunt this kid's growth? He's, by the way, going to be 26 years old next year. Um, not to be depressing, but I think the reality of it is that if you had to bet the house on it, I think you'd probably, the smart bet is that Kenny Pickett's not going to be an above average quarterback at this point. I think that most of all of history would tell you that Matt Canada was probably not the worst offensive coordinator in the history of the NFL. Maybe he was a bad offensive coordinator. He probably was, but like, was he the worst offensive coordinator in history of the NFL? That's pretty unlikely. Um, so I think you have to say that this Pickett thing, I don't know. I think if I had to bet everything I owned one direction or the other, I would bet that it's probably not likely he's playing as a starting quarterback on a second contract in a few years. That would be my bet. Sadly, I wish it wasn't the
Let
case,
me
but I'm just being honest.
let me some information here at you. What qualifying numbers that they put out on players as to their grades before they're drafted,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the grades on player done by all these analytics companies and
Yep.
everything else like that. Okay, and proving more and more accurate these analytics because in the end of Kenny Pickett, the bar is set at, say, to be starting quarterback. Let's say is set at 9, and to
Yeah.
be an all pro quarterback is set at like 11. And to
Okay.
be like, right?
Sure.
So Kenny Pickett's numbers were 6.7. You
Right.
get where I'm coming from now, right?
Yeah.
So his analytics did not pan out for him to even be a quote unquote starting quarterback in the NFL because he was 2.5 points lower than what the standard is, 9, to be a starting quarterback. His numbers were much lower than that. Okay. So everybody was all, oh, Kenny Pickett, he's from Pitt, blah, 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 redemption for not picking Dan Marino.
Yeah.
What? Look, you all idiots had opportunity to pick Jalen Hurts the year before, and you didn't do it because you didn't plan for life after Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
Okay? So, idiots, a mistake
Yeah.
by not planning for life after Roethlisberger. You had an opportunity to get this guy. Even if he would have sat behind Roethlisberger for those 2 years, it probably would
Oh
have
yeah.
been one. You would have given Roethlisberger a year earlier or two, and you may have won more, got more, whatever.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no denying that. I mean, that is, I think that is proving to be their
Woulda, coulda,
biggest.
shoulda.
Yeah, that's proving to be their biggest sin is that they just genuinely did not prepare for life after Roethlisberger. I think that organizationally, I think it's fair at this point to say that organizationally I think that they were even more guilty than fans of in the words of Cinderella, don't know what you got till it's gone, right? I think that they did not value him enough. I think that all of the messaging from that year in 2021 to me, and I've said it on air now for multiple years, I believe in my heart of hearts that if you gave him truth serum, that Tomlin and Colbert were ready to move on after 2020 from Roethlisberger.
Yeah,
And I think that they were
yeah.
kind of just like, even I think Colbert even might have retired if that was the case. And I think they just kind of kept the band together for one more tour. And
I'm
but
with you.
but a lot of the comments Tomlin had, about the mobility and all that kind of stuff was stuff where I was like, that's kind of out of bounds for Ben. Like you can't talk shit about Rod. Like he's done more for this organization than almost any player in terms of like he's literally played the most games any player has ever played in the Steelers uniform. So um that rubbed me the wrong way, and I always kind of felt like they were ready to have moved on by that point. And they should have drafted Jalen Hurts. You're absolutely right. There's no real argument against that, except for that they were drafting for now because they wanted to try to extend an imaginary
They didn't have a
window.
choice. They
Yeah.
didn't have a choice at that point. And that's why, Kenny Pickett fell to them at 20 or whatever spot. If you would have made the quarterback when you could have, in a good quarterback year, instead of trying to justify picking somebody in a bad quarterback year, okay, now you're going to have what, in a year or two, you're going to have another good quarterback year, and what are
Yeah.
you going to do now?
No, I mean, I think that the reality is like, you know, um, they're gonna. I mean, Pickett will have another year. I think that's fair to him. I have to say it's frustrating that it's come to this, but I think it's fair to
And
him.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
yeah, I think it's fair to
Based off
him.
of everything, yeah.
Yeah, I do. And I think that, honestly, I think that this injury is not the worst thing to happen for him. I just think he needed a minute away. I just felt like it was just not going to a good place for him. It was getting worse.
Agreed.
It was getting worse and
Yeah.
worse. I'm tired of hearing, like, every time I say something on Pickett, and I've been a big Pickett supporter, honestly, for most of his career so far, but like,
Clearly.
I watch these games and I watch what happens when he gets in the red zone or when he takes a bad sack. and I'll call it out. And I'm like, look, like this is just not good enough performance. And then inevitably, there's always somebody in the comments who's like, well, you know, he didn't do this, or he doesn't have a good coach. And I'm like, yeah, but at some point, a good player, especially at that position, you know, it's like a point guard in basketball. It can't all be your system. Like at some point, Steph Curry is just gonna put up a three and he's gonna hit it. And like, you know, like that's kind of like what Roethlisberger was. Roethlisberger was not a system guy, okay? Roethlisberger was just gonna make a play happen when it needed to happen. And I understand it's not realistic to compare Kenny Pickett to Ben Roethlisberger, but my point is like you have to, you know, generally speaking, the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. And if you're going to go and say, oh, well, Matt Canada stinks, and Mike Tomlin, and Eddie Faulkner, and this thing, and that thing, and this thing, and that thing, I think you might just have to kind of ultimately turn and point the finger and say, maybe Kenny Pickett's just not that good. Like, maybe that's the reality. And I do agree to what people are saying in the comments about how they tried to replace their skill players before replacing, like, the quarterback and stuff like that. And
I get it.
yeah, I agree. I mean, you know, you look around, look at what Ben did in his career. I mean, he made guys like Cedric Wilson and Jericho Cotchery look like Pro Bowlers. You don't need, you know, first round draft picks at wide receiver if you have a quarterback who can make a fourth round receiver look like a first round receiver. And that's what the Steelers have on their hands now. Yeah.
All you have to do is look at the Colts. All you have to do is Chiefs, because the Chiefs don't one draft picks at wide receiver, but they have Patrick Mahomes, and he's able to just make everybody else look good. You know, look, I'm gonna go with a really, really, really good but old saying: when the game's on the line, winners want the ball. So it doesn't matter what system you're in, it doesn't matter what coach you're in, it doesn't matter any of that stuff. It doesn't matter what you're in. The winners always want the ball. They always want it on their stick. They always want the one in the decision. Okay? The Kenny Pickett that we saw come into that Jets game, even though they lost, is not the same Kenny Pickett that we saw this year.
No, you're absolutely right.
Not a long stretch. The same Kenny Pickett that we saw play against the Buffalo last year, getting clocked, got up, pushed back. That is not the same Kenny Pickett this year.
No, you're absolutely right.
So something happened, something changed. What?
Well, they broke his confidence.
He needed,
they broke his confidence.
Yeah, just like that.
They broke his confidence. They gave him
just
no
don't throw
opportunity.
The ball away.
Yeah, they gave him no opportunity. They gave him no opportunity to like play from a organic point of view. Everything just, you know, everything we hear about, and now I'm going back on Canada, but like everything we heard about that was that like guys just didn't know why they were doing what they were doing, and the point of the routes and all this kind of stuff. And you know, and it reflects poorly on the organization. It reflects partially poorly on the players, because part of it is like, okay, well, why didn't you ask? And then when Matt Canada didn't give you an answer, you go to your position coach and you say, well, you know, everywhere else I've ever played, usually they tell me what the hell I'm supposed to be doing and why. You know, I mean, you're gonna tell me if a guy goes to Mike Tomlin and says, "Hey, coach, I don't think I'm getting enough out of my position coach. Like, I don't know why I'm supposed to be running this clear out on this play." Then I think Mike Tomlin probably would have been like, "Well, let's find you an answer." I don't think Mike Tomlin would have said, "Fuck off." Sorry, excuse my language, but like, I just think it's silly, and I think that you can put blame. I think you can put blame on every aspect of this team. And I just think that what I hate more than anything, and I'm not even like, I don't even want to, I shudder to even say this, because like this business 5-star matchup and what I do and stuff, it depends on the performance, and this would be really bad for me. But what I see is a bunch of guys who are ready to go into the off season. I do. That Canada firing and just what I saw these last 2 weeks, I see a group of guys that is not going to fight for anything, because I think they know. They're professionals. They know. This defense knows they ain't winning a playoff game. Come on. You know, you can't tell me, like, you could say they're not motivated by like individual accomplishments, but at this point, if I was TJ Watt, individual accomplishments would be the only thing I was really playing for, because what am I going to do? I'm going to risk my life and limb all season long to be the best defensive player on the planet just so that I can go to the playoffs and watch my team get absolutely throttled by the Chiefs or the Dolphins again for my efforts. I don't know.
Nope.
You
Nope.
know, and then
Nope.
there's so much of it with these guys, with these, somebody said about Steelers players having podcasts and stuff too, and like, again, not to rag on Cam Hayward, I love me some Cam Hayward, but talk about the pot calling the kettle black. He literally has a podcast where he goes and talks about stuff every single week. So is that setting a good example? I don't know. Maybe you could wait till you're retired, or you could just retire. Like, I don't know. I'm just very frustrated, and I would be stunned at this point if this team won more than 9 games, and even that, I think, I I just that would suck. That would really be a bummer after
It
6-3.
would. It would. And you know what, though? Here's the thing, though, that we have to make this very important point. Okay. You need to go over to patreon.com/5SMU and sign up for $4 or $7 a month, $48 a year, right? You need to sign up for that so you can let's ramble on about these guys.
I'm just like, I mean, what are we gonna do? We're gonna come in here and talk about football? Like, there's just nothing to talk about because you don't know what they can come out and put up 110
It's a
yards of
highlight show
offense.
with no
Yeah.
highlights. Wait a
Ugh.
minute. A highlight with no highlights? When the only highlight that you can bring out is Chris Boswell? That's the only
Yep.
look forward to is Chris Boswell kicking field goals? I mean,
I know. I just have to start making a kicking
we
only show, just punting and kicking. It's just the
Presley Harvin
Presley
the second
Harvin and Boss.
and money all the time. But by the way, I would like to say a big huge thank you for every single time I see that guy step up to kick a ball, I hear that frickin' song.
Yes, the $1 Million Man,
Thank you
Ted
for that.
DiBiase. Yeah.
Yes. I love it. Oh my gosh, man. I
Ah,
remember Ted DiBiase where what was the lady's name? And she would just
Sensational Sherry.
money
Yeah.
out on.
Yep.
Yeah, she would just come out and she would wear the like Marilyn Monroe gowns and these big
Mhm.
diamond bracelets,
Yeah.
and she would just be throwing money out like this.
There
I'm
was
like,
a
all
great
right.
there's a great promo I love where he goes, he had a big wad of cash, and he pulls some kid out of the audience, and he goes, he gives him a basketball, and he goes, if you can dribble that 10 times, I'll give you this stack of money. And he lets him dribble it 9 times and then just boots the basketball. It's just like, it just laughs at him. And I just like, I just love that golden age wrestling stuff. It
Oh,
just cracks me up.
oh, gosh, you
It's
couldn't do that today. Woo,
no,
no.
no, so
Oh,
funny.
you'd shut down quick.
Oh,
You did
so
them,
good.
kid.
Um,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but yeah, folks, we do have to get going a little
Oh,
early tonight. I got some plans this evening, so I gotta run. But I appreciate you hanging out. I know that obviously these stretches, the numbers always dip a little bit. No one's super hyped to listen to people talk about the Steelers. I feel the same way. It's all good, but
me too.
yeah,
But thanks for
um,
joining us, though, man.
absolutely.
Appreciate you guys hopping in here, though, really. And big props and lots of congratulations to the 5-star team here for all the great stuff that they put out there, all the shows. Look, it ain't easy being, and especially when your team is spoiled milk,
Yeah. Just trying to have some fun with it, That's
right?
what I was doing this week. I was like, let's do something different. I haven't shot anything. I got this nice gear. I used to actually shoot stuff on camera. Like that's like what I went to school to do. So I was like, let's have a little fun, do a little different.
There you
Couldn't
go.
I couldn't stomach highlights. I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. Just could not look at that game again.
It's yeah, it was tough to watch the first time through because I do the same thing that you don't know. I don't go through as much tape
Yeah.
or because you're pulling out highlights and everything, but I still usually game like twice
Yeah.
because I'll watch it one time and then I have to back and watch as an analyst the next time.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And sometimes I don't make it back through as the fan. Yeah, so yeah.
Oh
Hey
boy.
man.
Well,
What?
no, nothing. Nothing. Just general. Just oh
Okay.
boy.
I thought something happened. But hey,
Oh
thank
no.
you all very much for hopping on. Thank you all for being here. 5 star is the main man, pots and pans. I'm Steel Flyers. You can go on over to steelflyers.com. Check me out. Really would appreciate a like or a follow or anything like that on Twitter at steelflyers52. Be looking for some new content coming out here the first of the year. For sure, for sure. Be looking for some new prospects that we'll be doing on prospects. Especially, we got a lot of guys right here, our juniors, which they kick off here on the 26th of December. So I'll be looking for some of that great content, and would really appreciate if you guys could go over to Steel Fires. You see the webbing up here, man. I really appreciate you guys going over there and checking us out, man. Thank you, 5 star, for having us on here, man. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Make sure you check out steelflyers.com and follow him up on everything. You'll see him on my Twitter, I'm sure. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys have a good rest of your week, and I'll see you on Saturday for the game. If you hop over to patreon.com/5SMU, before then, you can talk to me in Discord during the game. If you want, it's $4 a month. Go do it. Who am I kidding? It's the best deal on the internet. Love
Do
y'all.
it.
Love y'all. Have a nice night. I'll catch you down the road on the next edition